Welcome back, listeners, to Cosmic Confluence, the podcast where we explore the intersection of consciousness, healing, and transformation. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving into a really fascinating emerging modality in trauma resolution, cannabis assisted psychedelic therapy. And our guest today is Pete Volos, who is the founder of Psychogenetics and a leading figure in cannabis assisted psychedelic therapy in Australia. Now, Pete has been working with cannabis as a plant ally in mindfulness practices since 2011. His personal journey of healing from ancestral and childhood trauma led him to discover the profound impact of psychedelic cannabis in reconnecting with his body, emotions, and authentic self. And interestingly, he now integrates plant medicine with breathwork, bioenergetics, kinesiology, bodywork, and Reiki in his transformative somatic practice. And Pete is also the co founder of the International Consciousness Collective, which is a global network of guides dedicated to deep healing and transformation. So, with that, Pete, welcome to Cosmic Conference, and I'm so excited to have you here with us.
Thank you, Sana. Thanks for the introduction. Glad to be here.
Of course, Pete. So, um, talking about cannabis, so many people are familiar with cannabis either for recreational or even medical use. But how exactly does cannabis come as a viable tool for deep trauma resolution and psychedelic therapy?
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of cannabis itself, there has to be like a reframe on how to use it and what it's about. There's there's such power in the actual medicine itself that, um, unfortunately, in the 1980s, the war on drugs skewed people's perception of cannabis. Uh,
Mhm.
People called it a gateway drug. It was called a gateway drug, and it, it it represented like a thing where people said that it made people stupid or was evil, but that actually skewed people's perception of it. And there's so much power in cannabis itself in terms of its somatic potential. We have the endocannabinoid system in
Mhm.
our body, which um, all mammals have, all humans have,
Okay.
and the plants itself, the actual plant itself, have the same receptors as the endocannabinoid system. So the plant is made for our body,
Mhm.
and it's not made to be, obviously abused or used recreationally every day. It's used as a sacred tool to go into the body to feel our emotions. 'Cause what it does the CB1 receptors and the CB2 receptors of the plant bind to the receptors of the endocannabinoid system, and it softens our body. It softens the muscles. It softens the nervous system to allow us to feel into the emotions more, feel into our body, so we can process trauma, so we can release trauma somatically. It also helps with identifying any looping rumination patterns in our mind. So the cannabis itself allows us to bring the subconscious to the surface to be seen, so we can process and identify the thoughts that we're having, so we can release them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so basically, cannabis is really a noble plant. I mean, there have been so many misconceptions, and yes, the usage has been abused to such extent that sometimes it becomes really, really tough to bust those myths and, project the actual benefits of cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. And so I always like to call it, there's two types of people. There's the people, the daily smoker, the stoner, the one that just uses it to, relax, sit on the couch, watch TV, and flick through movies.
Mhm.
So yeah, they're, I guess, the way they move through life is, they use it. There's obviously something that's happening in their body. They're wanting to use cannabis because it's giving them something. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's getting abused. It's getting used a lot. So, it floods the endocannabinoid system. And the more you use it, we over flood that system. So, the piece missing there is it's not being used intentionally. And that's where cannabis is so powerful when used with intention. Then there's the other side. So that the other side was me. I was the very sensitive one, the one that, you know, you either smoke it and, you have a really bad first experience with it because, cannabis is a shadow amplifier. So it can bring up what's stuck in the body or what's deep in the body to the surface. So most people's first experience with cannabis is uh, could be quite a negative one because, they've done a big edible, um, you know, in terms of edibles, it's actually 10 times stronger than just smoking it because it's the way it processes in the liver. So most people's first experience with cannabis, the ones that are sensitive to the cannabis themselves, have quite a big experience, and they're not able to identify what's happened. So because of that, uh, the strength of the edible, or the fears that they have beneath the surface, it can bring that to the surface, and people aren't really familiar how to process it or how to identify what's come up in the experience. So they feel that maybe unsafe or that fear. So yeah, it's that balance between the two. So if we can find that middle point where um, you know, it's not cannabis isn't giving you these things. It's not giving you the fear. It's not giving you the anxiety or the paranoia. It's just highlighting what's there in your nervous system that needs to be healed. So it's such a powerful tool to identify, what's beneath the surface. But yeah, we just we need the tools to go
Yeah.
into the body in a safe way, and that's where cannabis-assisted psychedelic therapy comes in.
Hmm. Great, great. I think that really sets uh, the base for introducing psychedelic therapy. So also, Pete, what I understood is that in a therapeutic setting, if we talk about cannabis, then it isn't just about relaxation, but unlocking suppressed emotions and experiences. So, how does this differ from other plant medicine like the psilocybin or ayahuasca?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of cannabis itself, so it is a great preparation and integration tool for these other psychedelic medicines.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the cannabis spirit itself and the plant spirit, if you believe that cannabis or plants have a spirit, cannabis itself can mimic other psychedelics. So in these experiences, I've had clients experience similar experiences to psilocybin, ayahuasca, and MDMA. Um, and the reason being is cannabis. They say it's like a shapeshifter, so it can shapeshift into these other psychedelics. And I've had people that have had ayahuasca experiences before, and they've just dropped straight back into their ayahuasca experience, or if they've had psilocybin experiences with quite vivid imagery, and they're able to go into those experiences. The benefit of cannabis itself is, uh, firstly, there's agency. So compared to the other psychedelic medicines, you're able to come out of the experience. So, and still be within the 3D reality, like you're still in your body. You can look around and you're still in this 3D reality. Sometimes with the other psychedelics, you're kind of taken by the experience. So it's hard to come out. It's hard to um, yeah, basically leave the experience. So cannabis has the agency to, pop yourself out, drink some water, and then go straight back in. Because the way it works is you're laying down, you have your eye covering on, and you're having that internal experience. So you're kind of getting still a lot of those images, the visuals that you get, the energetic that you might get from other psychedelics, but in a safer way. So the safety of the agency is something that's really beneficial. But it's also, uh, if you did psilocybin or ayahuasca, you might only do it once every 6 months, um, or twice every 6 months, because the integration and the kind of the progression of using it is quite heavy on the body. It's big on the nervous system, whereas cannabis can be used, and I've had clients use it, once or twice a week and journey with it once or twice a week. So in terms of the healing potential, it's a much more shorter time than using it, you know, once every 6 months and having such a big experience.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm. And talking about you, Pete, you have personally used cannabis to reconnect with your emotions and authentic self after years of dissociation. So, can you walk us through what the process looked like for you? I mean, what were some of the pivotal moments from your healing journey throughout?
Yeah, sure. So let's call it before the age of 21. I'm 35 now, and before the age of 21, I don't remember much of my childhood. I was very disconnected from myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was, yeah, kind of, I wasn't able to identify at the time, but I was a bit clumsy. I used to hit my head, like lose my wallet a lot. I just wasn't in my body. And I didn't understand it until later that, there was a lack of safety. I was very dissociated. So there's some childhood stuff that obviously like created a big impact on that, and also some ancestral stuff that I was able to identify through a lot of the journey work that I've done.
Mhm.
And yeah, like before the age of 21, there was that dissociation, and then that's when I started using cannabis recreationally. I just went to my mate's house. Um, I'd maybe only smoke it once a week, and I'd have such these big experiences from just, one or two puffs. And I couldn't really put my finger on what was happening, because back then, I'd have these kind of psychedelic experiences by just, you know, being with my mate. And that long ago, there wasn't any information online about cannabis use in that way, and what it was doing. So I was having these experiences, and firstly, it was just recreational, but I was also, feeling energy for the first time. I was kind of dropping into my body. My heart was opening. Um,
Mhm.
Obviously, this was happening temporarily, like until the cannabis kind of went away. So that made me really curious about it. And I started using it more consciously a couple of years later, where I had an experience in my backyard where I thought, I'd smoke it, sit
Mhm.
in and listen to a chakra meditation online.
Okay.
And as I did that, I had my joint. I smoked it
Mhm.
intentionally
Mhm.
from my back straight, because it's cannabis is all about the mindset going in.
Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
Obviously, the environment you're in, so you have to be in a really safe container.
Mhm.
And I had the intention as well, which is a great combination. So I went in to close my eyes and just meditate and just feel into the meditation. And it was a seven chakra meditation.
Mhm.
And I had one puff. And as I sat with my body, I started to feel my chakras. I started to feel my energy centers for the first time. And I went to my solar plexus, and all these memories started coming up of my childhood, like self worth, not being good enough.
Mhm.
And it was, for me, that was the start of my journey into wellness and coming back into my body, because I wasn't really sure what was happening. Like I was familiar with the chakra system, but
But yeah.
it was such a profound experience where it put me on the journey of that self discovery. And that's where at that time I thought to myself, hey, if I can feel like this on cannabis,
Mhm.
how about if I drop the cannabis and start working on myself and not having to need it? And that's kind of, yeah, I found Reiki. I found some of the modalities that I teach, kinesiology, and from there. It was a journey to kind of find my true self, my authentic self, without any plant medicine. And I end up going to a Vipassana, and this was 2017. And I don't know if you're familiar with Vipassana
Yeah, yeah,
as a
of course.
meditation. Yeah, yeah. So I was there, like it was 5 years since I'd smoked cannabis, and I'm sitting there and I'm scanning my body, which is the body scan. And for the first time, I started feeling energy moving from my body. So it was like electricity coming up and down.
Wow.
That, yeah, that was a profound moment for me. It was like I was feeling the energy in my body and I could feel the electricity. And
Mhm.
yeah, from there, from that experience, it made me even more curious around, you know, how our body is an electromagnetic field that,
Exactly.
an energy can move through it.
Yeah, yeah.
So after that experience with Vipassana, I thought, you know what, I haven't smoked cannabis in 5 years, so
Wow.
I'm gonna go to the park and I'm gonna smoke some more cannabis. Um, I hadn't smoked in quite a few years. And when I was sitting in the park, I grabbed Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now,
Mhm.
and I thought, okay, I'm just gonna do one puff and see where this takes me because I hadn't, because I know I'm sweat sensitive to the medicine, so one
Uh-huh.
puff take me to a kind of place.
Yeah.
And I had the one puff, and I was reading Eckhart Tolle's book now, and I really connected with what he was saying in terms of that non-duality, the no mind, and I had this profound experience where I felt complete oneness in the experience. Um, and of course, like anything, with any types of plant medicine, that uh, withered away after about an hour. But it was such a profound experience to feel that and to know that you can access those states with the no mind. And
Mhm.
a bit of my ego at the time was like, oh, I can either go to the gym or I can smoke some more medicine.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Where is natural?
Yeah. And so I actually did go to the gym. I walked in
Mhm.
there and I saw like a friend in there that I wasn't really close with, but I knew. And because I was a little bit high at the time and I was kind of, in my own experience, I saw my mate and he didn't see me and I was like, oh, I don't want him to see me. I'm gonna leave. So out of self-worth, I left the gym.
Okay, okay.
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the park and I'm gonna smoke some more.
Mhm.
And, um, I forgot my intuition saying, you're sensitive, be careful here, like, trust your body. I kind
Mhm.
of I went to the park and this other park, it was a different park. And I sat down and straight away I could feel my energy maybe a little bit off. Like I didn't really, um, kind of my body was like, you know, kind of a little bit of fear was coming up.
Mhm.
So I wasn't listening to my body at this stage. And I know at that stage I was really still dissociated. So
Mhm.
um, I hadn't done the work because it was all about, transcendence and coming up instead of like
Mhm.
coming down. And this is where this experience that I'm about to tell you put me on the path to come back into the body because the body, coming into your body, coming into your lower
Mhm.
chakras is
Yeah.
where the work needs to happen because we can get lost in trying to, you know, go up and transcend. And um, that's where we can lose ourselves. So, it's having the balance between being here as a human on earth, connecting to the lower chakras, and then, um, you know, balancing between the both. So I was in the park and now I'm watching Eckhart Tolle. And I don't know why I put this on, but, I always say, there's a reason and there was little lessons and learnings from it, uh,
Mhm.
which I can go into. But I was now watching Eckhart Tolle on YouTube and now he was talking about death, like the concept of death.
Mhm.
And so I sat in the park. I pulled my joint. Um, I just had like I was about to have one puff, and my body, my nervous system was like, you know, this is going to be a big experience. Like my body started kind of like getting a little bit shaky and nervous about it.
Mhm.
So I had one puff of the cannabis, and as that happened, I felt this energy come up from the ground, up through my legs,
Mhm.
into my head, And then everything kind of like went kind of upside down, like a bit distorted.
Okay.
And all this fear and all this, and like I was saying, cannabis is a shadow amplifier. So, you know,
Mhm.
it's important to be in a safe container with the
Mhm.
right mindset. So this energy came up and I felt all this fear come up. And it was like, it, it was, I didn't know at the time, but what it was all this ancestral stuff of like this fear of death. So I'm watching Eckhart Tolle talk about death, but I'm also experiencing it.
Mhm.
And that was a big moment for me because um, I felt at the time it was very challenging. It was, yeah, they call it a dark night of the soul experience, which I
Mhm.
had to go through.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of left that experience a little bit dysregulated, not really understanding what happened. And I stopped using cannabis for a few years after that because it was like oh, was cannabis giving me these things? I wasn't really sure. And I wasn't in that safe container and I wasn't in the right setting and in the right mindset and, you know, the dosage, which is obviously important as well for the people that are sensitive. So I left that experience and it wasn't until like probably 4 or 5 years later where I found uh, there was a couple of mentors, a guy called Ryan Sprague
Mhm.
and another guy called Denny McQueen. So Denny McQueen created a book called Psychedelic Cannabis. And at the time, I I was I wasn't really sure um, about uh, where I was going to go with cannabis because it like I hadn't done it for so long. It
Mhm.
kind of kept coming back into my field, like it was coming back and back and back. And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
how do I do this now? I gotta do this. And he started talking about how to use cannabis to heal trauma.
Mhm.
And he had a school in Colorado called medicinal mindfulness. So I ended up doing his course, and his course was around using cannabis as a psychedelic. And you know, back years ago, before that, I was typing in psychedelic cannabis, and nothing was coming up. Like it was crazy. And finally, 10 years later, or yeah, almost 10 years later, I
Yeah. Yeah.
found this book, I found this course, and yeah, all the things that were like coming up in these experiences before that through this
Mhm.
course and this training that I did, using it in a therapeutic way, in a safe setting, to process emotions, to lay down, to go within. I was able to clear a lot of this dissociation, not being safe in the body. There was such big experiences that I did experience through this training, um, but I was able to, yeah, like find that sense of safety, find my emotions, heal that dissociation, and yeah, just find that sense of purpose. And it's been a joyride to get to. But yeah, I can go through like a lot of my experiences using
Yeah.
kind of as a psychedelic, but yeah, there's been a lot of learnings from it, and yeah, it's such a powerful tool to find that sense of safety for me back in the body, that
Mhm.
trust and clearing all that stagnant energy. So another great thing about cannabis itself is it can soften the muscles for
Mhm.
that energetic discharge to happen, that somatic discharge to happen in the fascia system, in the muscular system. And there was a lot of shaking, there's a lot of yeah, release that was happening after I
Mhm.
found
Mhm.
this training. And yeah, now I'm facilitating these sessions for people. So yeah, just kind of giving back and what I learned and the power of cannabis.
Super. Super. Beach that what a journey. And it seems like there's definitely a divine connection between you and cannabis because it like it felt like it comes back to your life in somehow, and it's kind of completion of a circle here, that it started with that experience when you were meditating, and then now you have done a course, and now you're also guiding others for mindfully using cannabis for healing at a somatic level. So that's really beautiful journey.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and yeah, I like to tell people in terms of cannabis, it will meet you where you're at. So if when you open your kind of your ideas and perception of and using it intentionally and you look at it in that way,
Mhm.
it just keeps opening up, and then the experience just gets can get more profound and more deeper. It's just changing, the mindset, the stigma that I mentioned earlier, um,
Mhm.
and the perception of it that can just change absolutely everything. Like, it is a plant medicine. It's grown out of the ground. It's got a spirit to it, just like even cacao does. In some
Mhm.
ways, like people use cacao and in those
Mhm.
ways. But yeah, this one I like to call it a master plant because it can mimic all the other plants as well,
Mhm.
mm, as a tool. And yeah, it's able to allow you to go deep into the subconscious layers where maybe like, and this is, like I said, I practice breath work and these other modalities, and cannabis can just take you to those layers that even breath work can, like, on its own, can't reach. It brings things to the surface more because of the softening that happens in the body, and the softening of they say it softens the amygdala as well, which is, the fight and flight um,
Mhm.
response.
Impossible. Mm.
Yeah, so it allows for more memory recall, and we're able to go into those past experiences so we can process and let them go.
Mhm. Okay, okay. Also, um, this space of a little bit practical, the space of psychedelic assisted therapy is definitely growing, but there are still legal and societal stigmas around cannabis, especially in therapeutic use. So, what challenges have you faced, specifically in Australia, and how do you see the future of this field evolving globally?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, cannabis laws vary widely by country, state, region. So even places where cannabis is legal, psychedelic assisted therapy still has a gray area. But in terms of cannabis itself, cannabis, in terms of the legality, it can, because people have prescriptions. So in Sydney, Australia,
Mhm.
uh, it is legal, in terms of prescription based, medically only. So for me, in my sessions, and I can do this legally, I can hold space but not supply the cannabis. So
Mm.
people can bring their own medically prescribed cannabis, and we can work with each other. Um, it is different in different places. The challenges I have here in Australia is the driving laws. So people got to be, obviously, like, people medically. It's been medically legal, I think, since 2017 to 2019 here in
Mhm.
Australia, and the laws itself doesn't allow you to drive even if you have a medically prescribed cannabis. So these laws are slowly changing, and you can see, like, there's a lot of shifts happening around the world. In America, many states are recreationally legal, like Colorado, where that was legal almost 10 years ago. So yeah, just over 10 years ago. So, but there is countries where it's not even medically legal. So yeah, like, there is a slow change happening, and people are starting to discover, the potential of cannabis and the power of cannabis. Um, you know, uh, Mostly people are seeing it obviously in the way of the physical, like, it helps with chronic pain, it helps with inflammation, helps sleep.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, the way I'm using it in the cannabis assisted psychedelic therapy is much more than that. It's the psychological, the emotional releases that can happen in the spiritual aspects of medicine itself.
Right, right. And I think more people are recognizing that these plant medicines, I mean, they have been used for centuries in healing traditions. Um, so, do you think, Pete, we are heading toward more mainstream acceptance, vis-a-vis the pharma industry, if we talk about, or will this remain a niche practice?
Yeah, so just going back to your point about the it's being used, for in terms of centuries, like, there's been, accounts of, ancient Chinese, like, if you look up, online, there's shrines and found in these ancient cultures, of China, where they were using cannabis in ceremony, and, um, the way they found was they found these remnants of cannabis in these little, um, ceremonial boxes, that have been uncovered. So, yeah, cannabis has been around such a long time, and it's been used for, even in, say, in India with Shiva, he's represented as someone that, um, yeah, used to smoke and
Yeah.
used to use it in that divine way. So the in terms of cannabis, it has been kind of skewed and lost, the ancient traditions, and, I know a lot of India, they do use cannabis in a certain way. It's also
Mhm.
just kind of like reframing that use. So it is, such a niche market, like you mentioned, and the education piece is probably the most important, piece, on how to use it in a way that, yeah, let's call it harm reduction, just so it can change people's perception of it. But, yeah, the niche market does make it challenging for sure. It's got its challenges there.
Fair, fair. Great, great, Pete. So, of course, I think very, very interesting, very eye-opening, and very much crucial conversation on this. So, if our listeners, if they want to explore more about cannabis-assisted psychedelic therapy and connect with you, connect with your work as well, how they can do that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So you can jump on www.psychogenetics.com. And yeah, if you're interested in knowing a bit more, you can jump on a casual free discovery call with me, and we can have a chat if you want to learn more about how to use it in a certain way. So I offer, yeah, one-on-ones, groups. I also do it online. So cannabis, the way I actually learnt it was, online,
Oh,
through Zoom.
great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's safe enough to do online, which, other psychedelics have its challenges and you wouldn't do it. So, yeah, so there's a one-on-one space, there's a group stuff. I run retreats. I do run some, free online cannabis circles, monthly, which you can find on my website. And yeah, if you want to know more, uh, I do have an ebook, How to Use Cannabis to Heal Trauma, which,
Mhm.
you can, yeah, sign up for. That's free as well, and I can drop that into the show notes.
Lovely, lovely. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners. And Pete, thank you so much, for your work. I think it's truly, truly pioneering in this space. And I mean, I appreciate it. I'm very sure our listeners, they all appreciate the depth and the compassion, the divine connection you bring to cannabis, giving it as uh, that identity of being the master plant. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I'd love to jump on again to, yeah, give you more information. There's a lot more we can uncover. So,
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And to all of our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, if you connected with Pete, his journey, and his expertise, and the expertise of cannabis, then make sure to refer to the show notes to explore more about cannabis assisted psychedelic therapy, and also subscribe to Cosmic Confluence, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who might find it valuable. And remember that healing is a journey, and then there are many paths to transformation. So stay curious, stay open, and keep exploring the cosmic confluence of consciousness. Thank you.